Hello and welcome to GDB World. In today's video we're going to take a look at the core building blocks to make this European style building material. Unfortunately I did lose a lot of the footage when I was building material, so instead I'm just going to go over the base shapes that I used initially to give you an idea of what the foundation of the material looks like, and then we're going to let the video play out for some of the more detailing stages. So without further delay, let's have a look at the base shape elements. First base shape element we'd look at would be the glass panel upper. So this is one of three elements that make up the window. If you had a look at the reference, you can sort of see that it was sort of like a D shape with some intersecting lines that make up the geometry of the frames. So what we're doing here is we're just creating a square, flatten it down, make a T shape, rotate that one, then we've got the two lines that we need to make that geometry. Now we just need a circle, blend those two shapes together, and then that essentially cuts out the bits or parts of the lines that don't need to be there, because we only want the middle separator. We don't want the diagonal ones to be cutting into the center part of the shape. Right now, so this is just the mask that gets created to free up the bottom part of the shape, because I wanted to make that part of the window separate. And then we can bevel the frame to give the frame its height, as well as make sure the transition's not so sharp. Then we can move into the second part of the top part of the window. This is nice and simple, it's just done with a tile generator, masked out with another shape, and we can blend those two together, and then our final shape's complete. And then we can make the bottom part of the window that has the opening mechanism on it. It's just made with the tile generator, same as before. We just change the offset a little bit, and then we can blend it into the original shape with another tile generator with just two patterns selected, so then it only selects those two patterns. Next we're going to create the two arcs. They're both going to be exactly the same for the most part, apart from some curve changes, and one's going to be more stretched out than the other. So this is just created with some shape nodes, blend the square and circle together to create our archway, and then we're just doing some inverting, and then we're just applying a bevel and making sure the bevel extrudes outwards from the shape. Gives us a nice gradient sort of arc, then that we can control with the curves node or gradient node or something to create that sort of carving effect in the arcs themselves. And the top one's for the top one, and the bottom one's going to be another variation, but with that top bit masked out. And this section is just the detailing area, so you can put any type of details you like, so just like chips or anything like that. And you can see I'm just blending it into the window shape now. Then we're moving into the little top square portion. We start out with just a cube 3D, and then we're just warping it with a gradient that gives us that sort of pinching effect. Once it's pinched enough at the bottom, we're essentially just then blending in some noises just to break it up a little bit, and then we can bring it into the original shape. And that brings us to the pillar ends. They're built much the same way as we built this cube portion, just cube 3D, doing the little pinch method with the gradient one, and then we're just cutting off half of it, so then we can just mirror it so it's a perfect shape, and then we're able to reuse this shape and change the size of it for all of our requirements and needs that we need it. Next one is this sort of square portion that sits underneath the window. The only thing you really need to know about this is we're just creating squares and applying a specific grayscale to the middle portion of the square. This just allows us to really control how much height this element has. We want to make sure we have very specific amounts, say like 25% grey for example. This is to ensure it doesn't become the core element in the scene. The square itself then gets blended in with a pyramid, and then we can reuse the previous iteration of the square, stretch it out, and that becomes the middle portion of the shape as well. And with that, I leave you with the time lapse of some of the finer details. This material will be available on my Patreon. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, a comment for what you want to see next, and as always, have a lovely day.